When you are in the thick of writing your first book, it is totally normal to look at all of these authors who are having so much success and wonder, what do they know that I don't know? I know if you're in Facebook groups or other parts of the writing community, you are seeing all of these authors succeed. And of course, we all want to celebrate and cheer them on and uplift them. And it hurts when there's this little tiny part of you that is just really jealous. Well, today I want to answer a question that nobody asks, but is on every first time author's mind. What do published authors know that I don't know? Stay tuned. Do you keep getting stuck in your memoir because you don't know how to make a plan? Well, so did Rita before she joined the Memoir Method.
I know. I'm very excited. Well, I mean, I love your system then because I'm like, it really works. I guess like I
Yeah,
can trust to it because it's never worked for me and I've written for
same.
ever. And I'm like, I guess, and plus I think the accountability helps. Like coming on here once a week, I'm like, it's worth the input and like, giving the money over and stuff because it just this alone has like, I
Yeah,
mean, it's incredible how much
it's
accountability.
priceless.
Learn more at pageandpodium.com/memoir-method. If you have been looking around at all of the success of authors that you know or know through a couple of degrees of separation or even don't know but just see in the national spotlight, I know that you are wondering, what do they know? How did they get there? What am I missing? Well, I'm going to tell you today, but I want to first start by saying I'm going to tell you up front. I don't want to make you have to wait for this whole video. But let me say that when I tell you the answer to this question, it's not immediately going to seem all that useful. So what I want to do is I'm going to tell you the answer, but then I want to work through kind of how the misconception that is so pervasive in our culture, kind of how it works, how you are going to see it stopping you from making progress, and I'm going to give you some solutions, some things that you can think about to really make sure that you are leveraging all of the same resources that are available to you 100% that all of these published authors also have. Okay, so what is the answer? What do these published authors know that I bet you don't know? The answer is that every published book is a team effort. Every published book. All of them. No book is ever written and produced in solitude. Now, I told you already, hold tight because I want to pick that apart a little bit more. I think, that is said all the time. I'll tell you, open any acknowledgments page and they all start with something really similar to that. But there is more to this equation when it comes to the entire publishing process from writing to having that book out than really meets the eye. There are things that as people go through the publishing pipeline, they kind of forget that they ever didn't know. And I say that as a 3-time traditionally published author, that I'll tell you, you kind of go through the process and then you start to take for granted the things you've learned. The way that this became so clear to me is that I work with people who haven't been published, so it has become really, really apparent that this idea that books are a community effort is not getting spread to most people who want to publish books. Okay, so what is the problem here? How are you going to see this show up in your life? Well, the main thing is that when you are in this space of feeling like your book is a solitary project, you've got to just do it on your own, you're probably not doing what you need to do. Now, there's 2 general categories here. One category is you're not doing what you need to do, even though you know you need to do it. So I see this all the time. Oftentimes this will take the form of resisting an outline. In a memoir, you really, really need an outline. You really need that structure. Otherwise, you're kind of just journaling, right? But I will see authors really resist doing that because it's going to take some training. It's going to take some support. They know that they have some stuff to learn. They just don't want to do it. So that resistance is often a way that I see this kind of solitary ownership show up as a problem. It may also show up, even if you're done with the outline, it may show up in just not getting your writing done. Maybe you haven't set up any kind of accountability for yourself. You don't have anybody to really talk to about it. When we are so solitary like that, it's just really hard to move forward. all of the things that you know you should be doing that you're not, oftentimes every single one of those symptoms could be solved by being in the right community. But I think there also is a more nefarious area of not doing what you need to be doing to get this book published. And that is the stuff that you just legitimately do not know. The thing about publishing is it is a very opaque industry. It is very, very difficult to know how to go through the publishing pipeline when you haven't done it before. This is, by the way, a reason that the Memoir Method group program, we include a publishing unit, because writing that book isn't enough. A lot of times people can figure out how to get the book written, but if you don't know what to do with that book once it's done, what is the point of slogging through all of those many, many, many hours of work? Well, things like querying, things like building your platform, things like understanding what editors and agents are going to be looking for, those are all things that it is nearly impossible to figure out on your own. Really, the only way any of us learn this is by interacting with people that have been through the process before. But there also are issues like this in writing. I hear all the time from our Memoir Method folks that there are a lot of issues within the chapters themselves that they just really don't know how to tackle. How do you write dialogue that feels natural? How do you format the dialogue? How do you figure out kind of how to weave together a scene and structure and also your reflection? This stuff is hard, right? And truly the only way that we learn it is by talking through these things. Now, in the Memoir Method, we have stuff on all that in the vault because we know that the way that people need to learn that is by hearing from people who have successfully been through the entire process. And this is why it is so, so important to be in community, because truly it is nearly impossible to do what you need to do if you are not surrounded by people who are like-minded, who have been through the process before, and other people who are going through it alongside you. When you don't have that community, it's very, very, very difficult to make it through the incredibly lengthy process of getting your book planned, written, revised, edited, and published. It is just a lot. So we have got to be in community. But the thing is that even when I tell people that, I find that there can be a lot of resistance to building up a community. Now, I do suspect that some of this is, we creative types are very often introverts. We don't always want to be like out there talking with people and networking, whatever that might mean. It feels really, really intimidating. But I think there's a specific issue with writers that pops up a lot, especially when you're a first-time writer. And that is that when we go through our whole entire school career, working by ourselves, as many of us did, we learn that the way you write, the actual work of writing, has to be done by yourself. Now, you're not producing papers by yourself, right? Usually, when you're in high school or college, you're going to lectures, so you're learning from your professor, you're getting, some kind of a structured assignment typically and some kind of feedback often from the professor. There are other students in the class, so you might talk to them. But what we learn is the actual graded part of writing that essay, you have to do it yourself. And what happens if you don't? What happens if you bring other people in and try to get their help? We're often told that's plagiarism, right? We're often told that's cheating. The problem is that is not how the real world works. And I suspect you know that in areas other than writing. But since many of us don't really write between high school or college and working on this book, it can be really difficult to kind of bridge the gap between all of this learned information from elementary school on that we are not supposed to be working with other people. We're supposed to keep our eyes on our own paper, so to speak, and this different world of publishing where really no one does it on their own. Everybody is pulling in other people for feedback and support and guidance and information and sometimes literal words. All of these things are happening in the publishing industry, the folks that are successful. But if really the last time that you were really doing structured writing projects was like high school or college, you probably have a little bit of a mindset shift to make, right? You probably need to reframe in your mind what it means to write your own book, Because it doesn't mean to write your own book like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, locked away in the Overlook Hotel, right? We do not have to be all by ourselves. And in fact, we really shouldn't. So let me give you this mindset shift. If you are of the mind that kind of the real work of writing is the sitting at the keyboard and typing out the words, that is totally understandable. That is the part that feels like work, right? Particularly, so many of us are on our computers for work all day. The typing part is what feels like work. What I want to suggest to you is that the actual work of writing is not the part where you're putting words on the page. That the actual work of writing is not the part where you're putting words on the page. The actual work of writing is what you do before and after. So let me give you some examples. So back when I was working on my very first book, I was part of a really robust writing community called the Write On group. Cute, right? And I ran that with my co-author, Andre E. Johnson. So one of the things that we would do is we met every Friday afternoon, we would work during the afternoon and then we would break to happy hour at like 4 or 5. And one of the things that we would always do is we would be writing and we would take a pause, and often we would take a pause and ask someone else for a little bit of feedback, ask them if they had an idea real quick of how we could kind of move forward with the draft. Like, I'm stuck, I can't really figure out how to say this thing. And you know what? When you get immediate feedback like that, when you have someone you can lean on when you need them, it makes your writing feel so much more seamless, right? Because you're not writing and then you get stuck and then you hop on Facebook and you ask a question and then you have to wait and see if anybody replies, and maybe the replies are good, maybe they're not, you don't really know the people. That is really profoundly isolating, actually. You are really realizing how much you're depending on people who don't know you, who you don't know, to give you the feedback you need to get unstuck. That community of other people who are doing the same types of things that you are, that's the work. That's the work. Where you are working through the really hard stuff, it's not at the keyboard. It's with other people when you are asking for help, when you are yourself extending help and therefore learning the process more clearly. That community, that's the work. That is where you are actually getting the things done. Not only that, it's where you're getting the encouragement, it's where you're getting the uplift, it's where you're getting that very, very satisfying feeling of building something really amazing. Because it's not just you in front of a computer. You have this whole team of people that are cheering you on and rallying around you. So I want to suggest to you, that is the actual work, not the part where you're sitting at the keyboard. We have to do that too. But the actual work is where you are figuring out what to do next. Now, I said we do this in our Memoir Method group program, and one of the things that I want to share there is that when folks come to us with questions, so very often on the group call, one person will ask a question and someone else will say, "Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I didn't even think to ask that." Here again, this is another great example of what is the work, because any of those people that are in the Memoir Method, they could say like, you know what, I've got this hour Tuesday at noon Central. I could either pop into the group and listen and participate, or I can use that time to write. I think every one of them would tell you it is a better use of your time to be in the community, to be getting answers, to be offering your own perspective, to just be learning about what it means to do this work of writing, what it means to be a writer. The work is in the community. The work is in the communication. The work is in the questions and the answers. When we get that in our mindset, it's so much easier to move forward, not only again with the writing, but also with the publishing. So, what is the solution? Well, of course, the solution is not just community. The solution is real, sustained support. And there are 3 places that I want you to think about how you're going to get this support, and how I know every published author that I have talked to has gotten this support in their journey. So the first of those groups is going to be your professional support. Now, if you are going for a traditional book deal, this is something that it's going to be built into your deal. And I want to say that because I do sometimes hear some confusion. understandably. So the word editor can mean a couple of different things, right? Oftentimes in kind of the online writing advice community, when we talk about editors, we are talking about people that you might hire. So I do this work, Emily does this work, Page and Podium can help you with that if you'd like to hire someone. That is an editor. But there also are editors at publishing houses, and they used to do that same work. Most of the time, they do not have the time in their schedule to do that anymore, which causes a lot of confusion. So you have an editor that you hire, or if you're doing a traditional book deal, you'll have an editor who is your support system at the press and kind of your liaison for the press. So I want to bring this up because either way, that is a way that you're going to get sustained support. Either if you are a self-publishing or hybrid publishing, and so that you hire someone to help you with that, or in a traditional deal, you're going to have your editor at the press. Now, I want to talk about the editor at the press because I don't hear that talked about nearly as often. So how this goes when you get a traditional book deal is that you will be getting that deal, you'll be communicating either through your agent or directly with the acquisitions editor. The acquisitions editor is who acquires your book. So they are the very first point of contact. And often you will want to talk with them and really make sure that they understand your vision. They're going to be good to work with. They're interested in you. But that editor is someone who will give you support through the whole process. And let me give you an example of this. So when I was working on my second book, my first book we didn't have, it was a little bit different structure, but my second book, I had an acquisitions editor. I loved her. Oh my gosh, she was so great. But one thing is that she would, kind of keep me really updated on the different types of sign-offs that had to happen at the press. There are more than you think. A lot of people at a traditional press have to sign off on the different parts of your project at the different times that you're going through it. So one of the things that is very, very common is that you will turn in your manuscript. Now this is edited. I had spent a lot of time. I had gotten feedback from a few different people, revised accordingly. I had done a lot of work on this manuscript. So you will hand that over, and then the press will get their feedback to you. So that may be, and probably will be, from your acquisitions editor or a different editor down the chain. And it may also be from some other readers that they have set up. Now, when you get their feedback, you will have to incorporate that into your manuscript or make a really strong case for why you shouldn't incorporate it, for why there is either a different solution or that the problem doesn't need to be solved in the first place. Well, I did not know, and you may not either, that when you are making those revisions, after your editor signs off and says that you have done a good enough job of incorporating the press's feedback, your editor has to take it to the editorial board, to all the other editors at the press, and they have to make the case to that group of people that you did a good enough job. I didn't know. I didn't know that was happening. So what happened was my editor said, I think this looks really good. Thank you for your work. I'm really excited to take this to the editorial board, and I will let you know if I need anything else to really make sure that we get their approval. And I freaked out. So I called her actually, and I just love to pick up the phone. I guess I'm old school. But I called her and I said, "Oh my gosh, Tara, what? You're taking it for approval? What has to be approved?" And she was like, "You know what? It's okay. I've got your back. I made sure you did a good enough job. Yes, I am going to have to present your book. I'm going to have to present your revisions and make the case that you did a good enough job. But I'm not worried. I coached you through it. As you know, we did a lot of work. It is going to be fine. I really think it's going to be fine." She didn't necessarily know, right? It could have gone either way. It was fine, but it could have gone either way. But my point is, had I not had her to walk me through the process, I don't know if it would have been okay. I really did a lot of just kind of what she told me to do. I would get feedback. I would say like, "Hey, Tara, what do you think? Should I do X, Y, Z?" And she would either say, yes, or I don't know, let's kind of talk about it more. We had a lot of community, a lot of communication between the two of us. And then as the book moved through the pipeline, other people at the press started to join that conversation. That is a sustained community that is part of every publishing journey. I talked about it in terms of traditional publishing because I do think that gets overlooked a bit. But if you're self-publishing or working with a hybrid, you will need that too, right? If you're self-publishing, you probably need to hire out the different people that are going to be on your team. If you're a hybrid, you are paying that press to provide those people for you. But that is the first group. The editor and kind of the surrounding folks around the editor is your first group of community that is really going to help you get that sustained support. The second group, you might be surprised to hear me say this, but particularly if you are nonfiction, if you're writing memoir, if you're writing any other, prescription nonfiction, trade nonfiction, the second group of people that you need to be in community with are your readers. Now, this always kind of weirds people out when I talk about this because I know it's sort of like, well, who are my readers if my book isn't written yet? Fair. What any press, and you yourself, if you're self-publishing, should expect of you as you're preparing that book is that you are already identifying who the book is for, reaching out to them in one way or another, and making sure that you are building a community of people who are into your message, who are excited for your book, and who you are regularly helping. So that when the time comes that your book is out for purchase, they will want to help you back, right? They will want to support you because you have offered them so much support, so much value through your ideas and your stories. Now, what I do not want you to hear me saying is that you need 1 million social media followers to get a book deal. That is not true. And in fact, I have another video called Why Nonfiction Authors Need a Platform. Bop over to that and I talk all about what I mean by platform. It is not only your social media followers, contrary to popular belief. What you do need is at least a small group of people who can start out your snowball of readers. People who either you're working with maybe in your business, people who you have met through different kinds of support groups, through your, friends of friends of friends, so that you're building your network, people who are kind of in the same types of often Facebook groups or affinity groups that you are, who you know are going to be interested in what you're doing. If you are talking about your ideas in any kind of forum, whether that could be anything from social media to keynote or TED Talks, all the way to just kind of communicating one-on-one with different people you work with, then you are on the right track. The point that I want to make here is that platform, those people that you're interacting with, they are not dollar signs, right? They are not people who you're kind of counting how many books you're going to sell. And I know you don't think that, but there's a part of our brain, I think, that goes to like, oh, I've got to have the numbers. I want to encourage you to think about quality over quantity. I want to encourage you to think about your book as leaning on this community of readers where you are really in conversation, in community with them. The reason is not only that they're going to buy your book and that they're going to look really good to your publisher. The reason is that the more you are in community with them, the more you know what they need. And your book ultimately should be serving their needs in addition to your purposes that you have for writing the book. So your readers are the second community, and I really cannot stress enough that this is something you can start working on before your manuscript is done. You know some of the ideas that you want to put in that book. Start putting them out in short form or longer form, whatever works, but start putting them out there. Start getting feedback. Start offering them as helpful suggestions. There are all kinds of ways to do this, and I know you will, if you think about the community you want to build, you're going to be in such a better place to start working on this. And the third place that you are going to build community, that every published author I know, literally every single one, builds community, is among other writers. Now, I hinted at this earlier, and I want to say it explicitly. You are not in a community of writers if you just joined a Facebook group and every couple of months you pop in and either answer or ask a question. That is not what I mean. What I mean is a community of people who are going through the same things that you are, or have been through the same things that you are, who you can have actual, open, vulnerable communication with. Not just a question and an answer here and there, but sharing all of the good, bad, the ugly, the wins that you have, the celebrations that you wanted to share, as well as the times when you just feel really low. There are times when that book that you love just starts to feel like a slog, when you just do not want to sit at the computer. Those people, those are the people who know. Those other writers are the people who understand what you're going through and understand what you're saying. Now, here is one thing that I learned when I was a brand new baby author and I was learning how to do this process. I had this misconception that the way that you would build a network of other writers would be that you'd need to get your book out first. And then you'd have the credibility, and then you could kind of network with people who had also done that. Great. I was very fortunately disavowed of this notion pretty early on. One of my mentors, Melissa, she had introduced us, kind of me and a few other writers that she was mentoring. She had introduced us to a writer that was much, much more established in her area. And I remember we were all kind of fawning over him. We were so impressed that she knew him. And I remember, I kind of asked her, how did you meet Jonathan? And she said, oh, well, we both were just getting started and we were at a conference and, neither one of us really knew what we were doing. We bumped into each other. We kind of hit it off. All these years later, they were really close friends and both of them were published authors. That is the way it works. You do not wait until the book is out to start networking with other writers. You need to network with writers now. That is what is going to keep you sustained through this process. So if you are looking for a group like that, one thing that you can do is Google, writing groups in my area. You can Google authors in your area and see if there's anybody that, is maybe just a little bit ahead of you that you could buy them lunch or buy them a cup of coffee and see if they're willing to connect. They probably know other writers that they could introduce you to. We also offer this in the Memoir Method, which we do happen to have enrollment open right now. So if you're interested in kind of having this community of people who are working on their memoir, let me know. You can apply at pageandpodium.com/apply. And one of the things that happens in there is that we have these group calls every week, and we also have once a quarter a different, a little bit more social type of a group call so that you do get to network and be around people. Everybody's really open and vulnerable, and it is a really good group. Anyway, if you're thinking of I really love this program. If you're thinking of enrolling, if you enroll between now and the end of the month, you will get our free launch bonus, the outline review, which is just Emily and I giving you direct feedback on your outline so you can feel super, super confident before you move into the writing stage. But anyway, I don't want to talk too much about that. My purpose here is to let you know that you need these types of community. You need to have your community that is your professional community. Yes, that is important. But you also need your reader, your audience community, and you must have a writing community. It is so, so valuable to have people who are on that journey with you so that at every single stage, as you move up the ladder, you have peers that you can reach out to that will celebrate your wins and build you up when things are not going quite so well. All right, so what do the published authors know that you don't know? Now you know. Every book is a team effort. Every book is about community. So now that you know that, go out and build yours. I promise it will make a bigger difference than you think. I promise. All right, go be in community, go work with others, and get that book written and published. I cannot wait to read it. Happy writing. Free advice on YouTube is great, but if you really want to finish your memoir, you need a lot more than that. You need customized tutorials, you need accountability, you need a community of like-minded writers just like you, and you need targeted support from professionals who know your book, care about your project, and are there to help whenever you need us. And you can get all of that in the Memoir Method. This very small curated group of women is the perfect place to finish your memoir. And if you sign up now through September 26th, you will get a free outline review session. This is a priceless extra that is going to help you feel so confident as you move from the planning stages into the writing stages and on to publishing and marketing, all of which is included in our program. This is a 9-month program, and you can learn more about it at pageandpodium.com/memoir-method or head right over to apply at pageandpodium.com/apply. I'm so excited to see you there.